not long ago, the Lord spoke to me, the great industrialization. First, I saw a vision of a flag of Canada, a flag of the US, and a flag of Australia. And I try to make an image using AI to kind of depict what I was seeing. And the Lord began to download to me that the US needed to enter into a new and greater economic and strategic alliance with Canada and with Australia, that it was going to be needed for the US's economy, also for the US's currency, the US's military strategy in the future, but also for revival that the Lord wanted to bring. It's like pathways of revival. And he spoke to me lastly for Australia, that Smith Wigglesworth prophesied that the last great revival would happen through Australia. And so I believe that the US, Canada, as well as the world need to be recipients of that. But also as well with this industrialization, the Lord said that it would almost be like back when Ford and Chrysler were kicking. They were at their peak. They were very strong. There were years ago, if you had a product made in America, you were excited to have a product that said made in America. It was top notch. It was top tier. I mean, it was made in America, was sturdy, was well built. Now, most of the stuff we have says made in China. For a while, we had made in Taiwan for a brief period. I remember in the early 90s, late 80s when I was a kid, we went over to Taiwan quite a bit. But now everything's pretty much made in China, even if it's a U.S. company.
All right. And when I was coming up, first grade, I don't know why I remember this, because that when I was in first grade, 45. I mean, the World War II had only been over like 10 years or something like that, because I was born in 55, so this had been about 60, and that would have been, I guess the World War II would have been only over about 10, 15 years or so. And everything, we used to make jokes as kids, oh, made in Japan, because that's where everything was being made in those days, Japan.
Wow.
And it was we would say that with no respect in our minds at all. And now then look what Japan has done, and become leaders in technology. And then as well as now Taiwan and China is more of the manufacturing. But I don't know how much China leads the way in technology versus coming through Taiwan. I don't know enough about how much originates in China. It seems like they kind of steal it. To me.
It's not kind of, they do.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, you're right. So what's happening, because they had low production costs, low manufacturing costs, because of their wages were so low, that a lot of foreign companies would set up these manufacturing plants. But you have to give them the schematics. You have to give them the design so they can manufacture. What they do is make a sister plant, and they make the knockoff copies with lower quality parts and labor and a different brand name to it. So you're absolutely correct.
Yeah. When you talked about United States, Canada, and Australia, I don't know if you have anything to say about this today. And, I'm not looking for we're not looking for as much opinions as if the Lord may have spoken about it at all.
Yes.
But Trump really wants Canada. He certainly wants Greenland. And right now, which is the province in Canada that's trying to go independent? I can't think of the name of it. But I showed a thing the other day where they're lining up to sign that they wanted to secede from Canada and become independent.
Saskatchewan, I think.
Is it? Well, I'm thinking it's that other one. If anyone, you guys tell me let me look at my thing here. If anyone remembers which province that was, I feel like I would know it if I heard it.
Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Ottawa.
Keep going.
British Columbia.
Alberta.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the one. Thank you. Julie wrote Alberta. Well, not Alberto, but it's Alberta. I know. But anyway, yeah, thank you, Julie. Yeah, because they were saying, yeah, it's Alberta. Yeah. They literally want to secede. That's the conservative province. But I mean, have you heard anything about Canada? Because you said a couple of times in your notes, Canada, Australia, and U.S. together. What do you mean together? And does any of that fit in us becoming more tightly, literally aligned, like some being part of us?
Yes, us coming into almost how it was years ago. It was the U.S. and the U.K., where we did so many things together. If you attack one, you attack the other almost, whether economically, intelligence-wise, even with the US, the UK, we have the Five Eyes, which includes New Zealand, Australia, but from an intelligence standpoint, even militaristically, all of those things.
Yeah.
But this industrialization, Lord showed me, will help bring back an increased middle class in the USA. Now, something just happened a few days ago.
Okay.
And this pertains to Canada and this word. So this happened after I sent the first email. Back in February of last year, I emailed Lynn Alderson, who runs RPN Network, Reformation Prayer Network for Cindy Jacobs, and then a prayer Hartfield, I think it's Heartland Prayer Network for John Benefield. And I told her in February, I said, I want you to be praying about Canada, or have the network praying about Canada, because I see China trying to encroach on Canada. And I hear that the Lord said it pertains to a new world order agenda. And if this happens, then Canada will be used as a gateway in the future for attacks to come into America and for the borders to be compromised. Now, that sounded crazy then, but just 3 days ago, the Prime Minister of Canada, I think his name is Mark Carney, went to Beijing, and they're signing a $9 billion deal. They said they're aligning with each other. And he says this, he slows down, and he says it purposely. He says, the progress we're making, we're moving to a new world order.
He did it like that, huh? He said it like that.
Just like that.
And I mean, God tells you that ahead of time. When did you have that? Last year sometime?
February is when I messaged Lynn Alderson. Yes.
Okay, so when God gives a word like that, I'm guessing, or I'm assuming that this is to get God's people to pray, and to pray, no, 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 Lord, right? Am I saying that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I also think there's some individuals that when they hear these words, they're positioned to do more than pray, to have direct intervention.
Okay.
To go to somebody, to speak. Somebody is only, 3 degrees of separation now. It used to be 6 or 7, probably 3 degrees now.
Well, right. And even on a podcast like this, by the time most of these, by the time they're matured or been curated for a few weeks, it'll go up to 100,000 people. And how many people from the government? I did this, Demontae, years ago on the Elijah list, and I found out that there were like about 1,000, give or take, on the Elijah list that had a .gov address that were subscribed, and so you can't tell, is that a secretary, or how about a secretary of state? You don't know. And they were just I couldn't identify who the address was. It was at a something at .gov, at something.gov. People are listening.
Yes. So I think,
go ahead.
No, I think there's people that need to pray. But I think sometimes certain groups of Christians, they stop at prayer and they don't say, God, what can I do?
Yeah, expand on that. And so give me an example. What do you mean, do what? Give an example.
Okay, good one. So I'll give an example. I'll just share this testimony. I was in Bermuda, I think 2 years ago, and the Lord had given me a word for the country. The country had an increase in violence, some things going economically, and he woke me up in the night. And he told me to take a picture of the premier of the country from my phone. I put it on the ground, walked around it 7 times, praying over it, saying the name of Jesus. And the next day, I end up meeting with members of parliament, the senators. Also, I receive the commissioner of education, the deputy commissioner of education. Then I receive a phone call. The governor general wants to meet with you, and the premier wants to meet with you. You have 5 minutes to make a decision who you're going to meet with. So I end up in the premier's office.
Unbelievable.
All of these meetings were back to back, supernaturally.
But see, I didn't know about that when I said what I said a few minutes ago. You had a grace to meet all these people. I didn't know that. My goodness.
It's always happening.
Yeah, anyway, and that's what you did was called, it's like a prophetic act. That wasn't some voodoo type of thing or magic. You just, in faith, God told you, take a picture, walk around and say, did you say 7 times? This thing keeps falling off. Sorry, guys. So I got to figure out how this is not do this. But so God honored the faith that you did what he told you to do. That releases faith, and he's always pleased with faith. And then he goes bam, 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 and just hooks it all up.
Yes. But it was me meeting with him was a direct intervention of sort, direct interaction. you know, you see the prophets in the Bible, they pray, but there's times where they actually go to the king or they go to the location. So
Yeah.
I think we need more of those direct interventions, interactions, whether they're somebody speaking to President Trump or speaking to the Prime Minister of Canada and bringing the solution.
Yeah. So in other words, let's push it. Let me just push it a little further on this. Someone hears this word that China's encroaching. They hear a prophet speak it, and then they realize that a year later it happens, or almost exactly a year later, this is happening. Because I saw that on national news too, that China's doing that. And they say they happen to be in the office next to the secretary, next to the Secretary of State of the United States. Okay, which is what? Secretary of State is
Rubio.
Okay, so they say, Secretary Rubio, I don't know if you believe in prophets, but let me play you this clip. This was prophesied a year ago, and God wants it not to happen, which of course he doesn't want it to happen either. But the implication is Secretary Rubio or President Trump, whoever, God does not want this to happen, and we're coming to you. And here, and then, if there was a word of wisdom or a word of the Lord to do this, the president needs to do such and such. Sometimes it gets to them that way, right?
I really sense we have a short window for the U.S. to go in before they sign all of the agreements and trade deals and Manning deal, whatever they're going to sign. We have a short window, probably weeks, if not 2 or 3 months, that the U.S. can go in and offer a counter offer, give them a better deal, give them a better a system that will be more prosperous and beneficial for Canada. And because, see, it's not just about the U.S. or Canada, it's about the systems that's attached to it. The church in America, even though we have our issues, even though we have our scandals that have happened, we have some real strong believers here and some real deal believers here.
Yeah.
When you bring in China, China's not bringing underground church over. They're bringing in the red dragging system of communism, of authoritative government, totalitarianism, and they can come in economically, but in 20, 30 years, they now start to control their politics, their government, their elections. And before you know it, Canada's under a dragon type of system.
I mean, that's a very, very real deal. That's not like, well, you never know. It could. No, this would be China's telegraphing their intentions.
Absolutely.
I've had people tell me they've seen Chinese troops in Canada starting a few years ago. I don't know if you knew about that.
No,
but
no.
They said they're talking about, they're like in these back areas where they're not seen by the general public. But I don't know. I probably won't say his name because I don't have permission, and I can't remember if it was public.
Okay.
But there was a prophet that came on and said there's Chinese troops in Canada. This is up 2 or 3 years ago. Hey, it's not like they've taken over, but they're there.
Wow.
And it's almost like I don't know what he would say, but I'll have to ask him if I have permission to say that. But how did you know that? And he had witnesses. I think he said it on the air, but we'll see. But I guess we better get to your next part. But go ahead. Did you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, as I was meditating on it this morning, the Lord just spoke to me, and these was the exact words. I was actually in the bathroom downstairs, not using it, washing my hands, and the Lord said they're attempting to do with the U.S. what the U.S. did to Russia years ago, is encircle the U.S. So before you normally can come in and bring military bases and soldiers and weaponries, you normally have to have some type of inroads. So you start there, but a manufacturing plant could be a good place to manufacture weapons, a good place to house soldiers. You get ports, good place to bring in, I don't want to say submarines, but bring in vessels that can be converted. And so I really see that they're trying to encircle America economically and potentially where they can convert into militaristically if needed.
Yeah, I don't want to say scary because we are not those who live in fear, but we need to live in wisdom. And I'm a real Trump fan, and I assume he knows a lot of this stuff and is working his plan. But people need to know. We need to pray. And as you say, if there are people that, like, there's someone listening to this right now who has no part in the government at all, and by tomorrow or the next day, suddenly they receive a recruiting call, and now suddenly they are working for the government next to the person in power, and they had no idea. All they knew that they were just administratively talented. So, I just think people need to remember, if you're ever in a place to influence those,
Yes.
yeah, God may, it may be an Esther moment for such a time as this, right? For such a time as
Yes.
this. So,
Yep.